Thank you for joining the 360 communication session. This is Michael Lu. I'm the senior consultant from DDI. This session I will be helped conducted. It will be around 30 minutes. So in the session, we are going to talk about three things. First, I'm going to introduce a little bit about 360, and then I'm going to talk about the questions that you're going to answer. And then the third one, I'm going to show you some email templates and also the system, how it looks like, so you'll feel comfortable doing it. Overview to 360. So basically, this is an very popular exercise employed by a lot of companies for senior leaders because it is helping them to discover some blind spot as it is inviting the stakeholders around this participant to give feedback, including the managers, the peers, including some work partners, maybe clients, as well as the direct reports. In this way, different people can provide their perspectives for this individual, and it can help them be aware of the strengths and potential development areas. It usually can uncover a blind spot or two, so it can help them accelerate their development. A lot of companies, they are using the 360 to encourage a feedback culture within the company, and also it is also use it as a way to educate about what's important for the organization as leaders, as well as to identify the common development needs. So different respondents may have different concerns. Most of them, they may worry if you give the honest feedback, how will it take it by the individual? It may also feel embarrassed to share the feedback, right? In order to ensure that you feel comfortable to give the honest feedback, we are doing it through a DDI online system. So the survey will be administered totally from DDI. You will receive an email from the DDI server, and all the data will be captured in a DDI server without going through any Gammon IT. So at the end, a report, a 360 report, will be compiled and sent to the participant. So the respondents' raw data. So for example, the specific score you give to this individual for a particular question, or the specific comments that is linked to that you wrote will not be linked back. So basically, the individual will receive a consolidated 360 report with no names, referring to which person gives which comment. So this is to encourage everybody can give an honest feedback. Okay, so that is that. Even DDI consultant, we do not have access to raw data, so it helps to make you feel a bit more comfortable to do this exercise. Now let's go to the survey questions. So before we do this 360 exercise, Gammon has done some internal discussion among the senior leaders to agree on a set of 8 competencies which are critical for this level of leaders. You see that there are 5 related to leadership and 3 related to interpersonal effectiveness. The leadership ones, including leading teams, coaching and developing others, delegation and empowerment, execution and safety leadership. That is on leadership. For interpersonal effectiveness, we have communication, influence, and emotional intelligence. So for each competencies, there are several questions. So there is a total of 42 questions. So let me give you an example. For example, here you can see that there's a leading team competency. There's a definition beneath it to explain what we mean by being able to lead teams. So DDI is a company focusing on leadership development, and in our database we have a lot of data and research findings to know that in order for one to lead teams effectively, there is a number of key actions you need to do. So you can see here there are a total of 4 key actions: create shared purpose, promote team processes, celebrate success, stays close. So after the name of each key action, there are some brief elaboration to explain what it means. Please read them because it may differ from your understanding when you just look at the phrase. So please read through the key action and understand what it means, and then you can start you can start answering the questions. So the questions are very straightforward. Basically, we just use the key actions as questions. And the way to answer it is that when you look at the key action and you compare the day-to-day behaviors of the individual and then rate them using the scale seeing on the lower right hand corner. Is it never, seldom, sometimes, often, always? So you choose among these five. Please do not choose not observed. So the way to do it, let me give you further example to help you. So basically, the tip is to focus on the verb of the statement. Then you can refer to the behavioral examples of these individuals in the recent past. Try to be as objective as possible. What it means is that you rate these persons based on his behaviors as compared to the definition. And then also when you need to fill out survey for more than one individuals, try to use the same level of uh, uh, severity to answer it. So when you think about the person's past behaviors, you can focus on what has been said or done and how has it been said or done. Let me give you a specific example. Here you can see the competency we want to evaluate is on delegation and empowerment. So the definition is underneath it. I'll give you a minute to read through it. So for the delegation, one key action is clarifies performance expectations. So this becomes the question, and there's a detailed explanation of what it means. Clearly communicates importance and parameters of the delegated task or responsibility, including task scope, limits of decision-making authority, performance standards, time constraints, and expected outputs and their impact on the individual and team. Identify others' issues and concerns, summarizes to ensure shared expectations. So after you read through the definition of this key action, you need to think about that individual that you are rating. Um, what are his what were his behaviors like in the past in relations to delegation? Let's say, for example, in the past 6 months, when you think about it, you feel that this person, whenever he assigns tasks for you, usually this person will explain the background, the task objectives, and his expected outcomes. He will also check to see if you have any concerns in relating to the team, timelines, and subcontractors. If those are his behaviors, and then when you compare, you can see that there's a lot of similarities between this example as well as the definition. And you probably will give him a rating in between often or always. So you first of all, you compare this individual's behaviors to the definition, and then you determine the frequency. So maybe at times he will do these behaviors, at other times he may not do it so often. Then you determine the level of frequency and give them a rating. So for this example, because it is usually, so we give them in the range between maybe 4 to 5. So here is another example. We are still on the competency, delegation, and empowerment. Now we have another key action. So it's called involves others in agreements. The interpretation is generates commitment by asking for the other person's ideas when agreeing on performance expectations, resources, and support needed, how results will be measured, and follow-up actions. So when you think about that person's behaviors in the past in relation to delegation, if his behaviors is like this, in the past year, because he's very busy, right? So he tend to send emails to assign tasks to you, and then he will expect you to handle them yourself and seek his support if you have any questions. So when you compare this person's behavior example and to the definition, it's not quite similar, right? He hasn't really done a lot of the key actions as described in involves in others definition. So in that case, you will give them a frequency rating in between maybe never or seldom, right? So that is how you rate the competency. So after your rating, there will be an open-ended comment box in which you can write specific examples to further elaborate your thoughts. So please be constructive and balanced and work-related. So when you write down the comments, so please write also positive comments as well as improvement areas. If you can refer to some specific example, the better. And when you give them improvement feedback, please give us suggestions on how he or she can improve. So that will make it easier for a person to develop themselves. So now let's move on and talk about the survey interface. So in the 360 exercise launch date, you will receive an email from profilingonline.com. Please check your junk box if in case it might fall into it, right? If you know when the 360 exercise project will launch, normally you will receive a pre-email from Gannon, his colleague, to remind you that you will receive an email from profilingonline.com. When you click on the email, you can see that the content will include the specific deadline. So please try to complete the survey before the deadline. If you have to do it on the last day, please do it before 5 p.m. And then you can click on the link which will lead you to the survey, and then you can type in your username and password. If you have any questions assessing the survey, you can contact Jen as indicated below. So after clicking on the link, you can go to that page where you can fill in the username and password, which will lead to the privacy policy. Please click I agree, and then it will lead to the home page. So you can click on the respond to assessment. In that screen, you can see that there's a table on the left-hand side. If there are more than one subject or individual you fill out, you can see the list of people in that table. You just click on the link, and then it will lead to the screen on your right. You can see that here that it shows the leading team. So that is one competencies, right? The definition is below it, and then underneath it, there's a table in which it includes 4 key actions in which you need to rate the individual or the participant that you are going to give feedback to. So you can just use the guidelines that we talked about earlier to give them a rating from never to always. So again, you can see here, it reminds you that under each competencies, there's a definition. Please read through the definition to understand what we means by leading teams. And then when you read through the key action, please also read the explanation of the key action to make sure that you fully understand what it is talking about in that particular key action. And then you can rate. So if you have further questions, you can contact Jen, indicated in the slide earlier, to help you. Thank you very much for your time.